Hello, friends. Welcome once again to another episode of Stories and Tall Tales from my back porch rocking chair. Hello, I'm Bobby Autry. Pull up a rocking chair, grab yourself something to drink, sit back, relax, and let's spend a little time together. You know, one of the things I enjoy most about these moments is simply sitting here overlooking Betts Creek. Watching the birds. Every now and then a boat going up and down the creek. You can always depend on the tide coming and going. And remembering, sometimes memories have a way of showing up when you least expect them. And today is one of those days. Because today would have been my sister Yvonne Sandman's birthday. This episode is lovingly dedicated in the memory of one fantastic person. She spent her life helping children, encouraging seniors, making people laugh, and reminding everyone around her that life was meant to be lived to its fullest, and always with lots of laughter and joy. And she happened to volunteer her little brother for a few projects along the way. Well, that was just part of being Yvonne. Now, if you knew Yvonne, you knew she was full of life. She loved children. She loved senior citizens. She loved helping people. But most of all, she loved making people smile. And she especially loved coming up with new ideas. And then always volunteering her little brother to help her make those things happen. Today's story is one of those ideas. It involves a YMCA camp, a sailboat, a storm, a worried mother, a complete stranger, and two people who had absolutely no business trying to sell a boat. And yes, one of those people was me. Yvonne had a wonderful idea. You see, my sister was the director of the Marietta Cobb YMCA. And one day a gentleman came by and he offered to donate a sailboat to the camp, which they had for the summer up in North Georgia. And they had a lake that was on it and big camp area, and he wanted to kind of contribute something to kind of help with the camp. So he said, I've got this sailboat that we don't really use a whole lot anymore, and I think it'd be a really good idea to have it on the lake, and you could teach the kids how to sail, and they would have a lot of fun. Well, Yvonne was one to say, well, I'm all for fun, and I'm all for teaching kids what to do, but I'm not really sure about a sailboat. But I got an idea. My brother, he's all about boats, and I'm sure we can get him to do it. Could you do me a favor? Could you deliver the boat up to Red Top Mountain? We have a campsite up there, and if you get the boat there, we could get Bobby to go, and he and I could go test it out and see what it's all about, and then we'd be able to come up with a program. Well, the man said, well, that shouldn't be too much of a trouble. I'll get that taken care of, and I'll have the boat delivered up there. Well, what about for tomorrow morning? She said, oh, that would be awesome, just awesome. Okay. So that's how the sailboat got brought to Red Top Mountain, and it was waiting for Yvonne and for me. A real sailboat. It was about 21 feet long, big mast, big sail, the whole deal. The gentleman thought the kids at the camp just might enjoy learning how to sail that thing. Yvonne thought it was the great idea she'd ever heard, and he left, and immediately my telephone rang. I picked it up, and it's, oh, Bobby, you're not going to believe this. Well, whenever a conversation started like that, I already knew that I was in trouble. Bobby, we've got a sailboat. A man came by and he's given us a sailboat. You're not going to believe this. I said, well, that's nice. She said, no, you don't understand. We got a sailboat, and you are going to teach the kids how to sail. Better rock a little bit here. You got to remember this with my sister. There's going to be a lot of podcasts that involves stories of things that she had me do. But one thing you'll always notice, I was not asked. I was told I was going to teach the kids how to sail. She then told me it was going to be delivered to our camping spot at Red Top Mountain, where Mom and Dad always camped out, and we could learn how to sell it, and then we'll take it to the YMCA summer camp for us to teach the kids. Now, that's when she used the word us, but she always meant you. I should have known. Well, all I could say was, okay, sis. And Yvonne said, oh, this is going to be so much fun. We'll make all the arrangements. And you get what you need, and I'll see you at the camp first thing tomorrow. Click. I was standing there with the phone in my hand. I thought, oh, no, what have I got myself into again? Oh, but if she can hook me into this, let me call Mom and see if she wants to spend some time at the lake tomorrow at the campsite. That way we'll have a little extra help along the way. The next morning, I go up to the camp early. Mom has already been there. And any of you know camping know one of the great things about camping is breakfast. Out over a little campfire, and she had the little Coleman stove and had some eggs and some campsite homemade biscuits. And gotta always have a little bacon to kind of make the air smell good. And so I got there and I came over to her and I said, I see they brought the sailboat. She said, oh yeah, there's some guys brought it and had it here at the camp. And your dad, he went to work, and I told him, I said, we're going to be okay. I figured, well, while Yvonne and I fool around with this sailboat, you can just enjoy it at the lake doing what you normally do. Just get on the float and kind of float around and get some rays. And Mom thought that sounded wonderful. Well, wasn't long before Yvonne got there. And so we both went down and we looked, and, well, I have to admit, now I don't know a lot about sailboats, folks. I really don't. I've been around boats all my life, but as you'll find out later, they were all motorboats. Not something you had to put a sail up, had to worry about the wind or any of those kind of, but this can't be complicated. So we looked around, and it was a beautiful little sailboat. Didn't look that complicated. Well, we'll see how this goes. So Yvonne and I pushed the boat out and into the cove. Said, well, we'll just try it here in the cove and see what happens. And so we put up the sail and we waited. Nothing happened. We just drifted. We waited. Nothing happened. Well, we figured out that after floating for a little while and really not going anywhere, the sailboat just sat there in the water and just, just did nothing. Wouldn't move. We figured it out. We needed at least two things to happen before our adventure could begin. We needed to put the sails up, and we needed wind. It's a sailboat. Who knew? Well, maybe that's why they have this little dingy 25 horsepower motor hanging off the back of the sailboat. So if you haven't got any wind, you go find it. Well, that was my thinking anyway. And it was one of those little motors, not like I was used to with a real motorboat. Had to crank it, had to pull a rope on it. Blah, 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 blah. That didn't work. Pull it again. Blah, 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 blah. Yvonne says, "Why don't you choke it?" I said, "Well, that's about what I'm going to do. I'm going to choke it." She said, "No, come on now." And so I fiddled around with the carburetor a little bit and pulled on the rope. It was running. So we sat back and this little motor's got a little handle on the back that you use to give it gas and to steer it and all. I wasn't used to that. I'm used to being able to be in the front of the boat with the steering wheel and have a throttle and be able to, off I go. Well, that's not the case when you're in a sailboat. So here we go. Out the cove and out into the main body of the water. We go out and could feel, not too bad. Here's some wind. So I turned the motor off. I raised the sails. And immediately I discovered something very important. I had no idea what I was doing. As the boat started going, the wind was catching in the sails. The boat leaned to one side and I told you, go to the other side, go to the other side, go to the other side. We go to the other side and the boat would lean to the other side. I thought we was going to turn over. Oh, the sails snapped with the wind in it, and all of a sudden we were moving. It had grabbed us, and Yvonne started hollering, and I started hollering, "Watch where we're going. How are we going to make this thing work?" And we're moving down the middle of the lake. The boat looked like it might flip over, and it was going from side to side, and I dropped the sail. Once again, we were drifting. Became pretty apparent at that point. I may know something about boats. I may have been around boats all my life. I know about motorboats. I know how to ski behind a motorboat. I know how to play in a boat and all those kind of things. But I was not a sailor. Sailor. That means knowing how to use a sail. Neither Yvonne nor myself could wear those titles of sailors. We were just passengers. Well, you better get something else to drink. Settle back just a little bit. Let me tell you what happened next. Well, as we sat there floating off into the main body of water, or should I say, drifting along the main body of water, because there was some current out there, and the boat just naturally floated the way the current was going. Then it occurred to us, well, we didn't know this body of water, and we didn't know what was in the direction that the current was going. We were headed in the direction of the dam that dammed up the lake called Altoona. And that's the direction we were headed. Wouldn't you know it? So, what do? Well, we put the sails back up. And put the sails up, and the wind would catch the sails, and whoosh, off we would go. Not the direction we wanted to go, but whatever direction the wind was blowing in. Because you see, I never knew or heard about this thing called tacking in the wind. It was just riding in the wind. And so that's what we were doing. But at least we were moving. And then as the sails would move from side to side as the wind would blow, and we were trying to move whatever we could move and do what we could do, it felt as if the boat was going to turn over. I would yank on the sails and bring them back down. And we would drift again. Both Yvonne and I were beginning to feel this is not as easy or as much fun as we thought it would be. It was in one of those here we go drifting again moments that I noticed the lever that was on the side panel that separated the left side from the right side. Now wait a minute. Don't any of y'all seasoned sailors get mad at me for not using the proper terms of port, starboard, front, or aft. We weren't sailors. To us, it was a boat, and that's all we knew. Well, eventually I figured out that lever in the middle went to something that is called, I didn't know it at the time, a center board. You release the lever and whoosh, down goes the center board, and the boat straightens up. I put the sails back up, and suddenly we were moving fast. And then this time we were moving in a straight line. We weren't tilting to one side or the other. Hey, this ain't too bad at all. Here we go, sailing. Oh, we were moving through the water. Praise the Lord, there was no other boats around at the point. But in front of us, kind of over to the right side, was the marina. And there was people on the docks, and there was a few boats over there. And we were headed straight for the marina. The people on the docks began waving. Not friendly waving, panic waving. Turn, turn. I'm like, how do you turn it? The problem was I didn't know how to turn it. I just knew how to ride it. Well, down comes the sails. We start drifting again. And I turned to Yvonne. I said, we got a problem here. The wind's blowing that direction. We put these sails up. We're headed back to the marina. I just don't think that's a good idea. Tell you what, I'm going to crank the motor and we're just going to put on back over to the cove. Well, pull on the motor. Pull on the motor. Yvonne says, oh, give it some more gas. I mashed a little bubble on the gas tank line, and I messed with the carburetor a little bit. And I pull on the string. We were going again. I turned the handle on the motor and give it a little bit more gas, and the boat takes off like a scalded dog. Where did all that power come from that little motor all of a sudden? I don't know. But I do know this. That little motor on that boat, when it started running fast, the front of the boat came up and I could just barely see over the stern. And we were still headed right toward the marina. I tried to turn the motor left or right. It didn't make any difference. The boat was headed for the marina. I forgot to bring up the centerboard, which was keeping us from turning left or right. I started fooling with the throttle on my motor, and it just didn't want to go, and it was just going fast. And all the people on the marina at the dock, they were hollering and waving. And Yvonne was saying, "Stop it, Bobby, stop it." I didn't know what to do, and I'm trying to turn the thing, and I'm getting all confused real fast and didn't want to say anything, and like, I don't know what to do. Not sure how much time went by, probably 3 minutes. And all of a sudden, there was this pow! The motor blew up, and there was smoke everywhere. And there was a hole in the side of the engine cover. And there was smoke and all this stuff, and Yvonne just looked down and she saw the gas tank, and she said, "We got a fire, we got to get rid of it." And she just jerked the gas tank, pulled the tank loose, and threw. Yes, she did. She threw the gas tank overboard. To this day, I still don't know if that helped. But I do know one thing. We no longer had any gas. We no longer had a motor. And we were drifting once again. Now, looking back, I kind of get ticked off wondering, all them people over on that marina was watching. And when they saw us stop, and they saw the smoke, and they saw us start drifting backwards, why did not somebody come and check on us? Guess I'll never know, because I never saw any of them people again. Here we were, drifting back toward the dam. Well, put the sails up again, Bobby. You got the centerboard down, you never brought it up. No problem there. Well, the wind did pick up. But about this time, noticed something else taking place. The wind was picking up, but the clouds were growing darker. And off in the distance, I could see some lightning. Wind, thunder, and lightning, and a sailboat drifting across the water. What are we going to do? Put the sails down, keep us from going fast, and just drift? I've got an idea. I've done this with the motorboat before when it got stranded. We won't talk about that, but that had happened a few times. So I jumped in the water, and I took the rope off the front, and I started swimming. And I was trying to pull the boat, swim, pull the boat, swim, pull the boat. Well, worked a little bit, but we weren't going far fast. We pretty much stayed in the same place we were, as long as I would swim and pull the boat. We drifted further and further, and the lake grew quiet. Yvonne looked at me and said, "Bobby, get back in the boat." Well, So there we sat, two grown adults, a broken sailboat, a storm approaching. No radio, never heard of a cell phone back then, no help, just faith. Well, you got to remember Yvonne was the director of the YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association. Christian Association. Hey, what do Christians do when there's no help in sight and things aren't going your way? We pray. That's right. Oh, Lord, help us. We don't know what we're doing. Send us some help, Lord. Help us, Lord. And then Yvonne started singing. Well, she was pretty good at that, and she trying to keep your spirits up, whether you be at camp, whether you be in the mall, whether you be at the Y, well, no matter where you're at, she didn't mind. And there she went. She started singing. Jesus loves the little children, even the stupid ones, all the children of the world. Well, suddenly everything seemed just a little bit better for a few moments anyway, as we drifted, trying to figure out what we were going to do. Meanwhile, Mom had noticed something. Yvonne's daughter Dee Dee had shown up on the scene and asked, "Where's Mom? Where's Uncle Bobby? Where's the sailboat?" Well, Mom told her that we'd gone off sailing in the direction toward the dam. That was a pretty long time ago. Dee Dee said, "Well, you think they're okay?" "Oh, they're probably having so much fun they haven't paid attention to the time." Well, Dee Dee told Mamaw Jewel, now that's what she called my mom, her grandmother. She told Mamaw, she said, "Well, there's a storm coming and we need to find them." So let me back up for just a moment. After we had gone sailing off out of the cove, Mom was drifting around on her float. A man had pulled up to the camping area and unloaded his little fishing boat at the ramp, gone and parked, got his fishing poles, and a cooler full of refreshments. And he put it out to the middle of the cove, threw out his anchor, put out his fishing poles, opened a can of refreshment, and laid back and was enjoying an afternoon of just relaxing. Mom said to Dee Dee, "Hold on, I'll go get that man to help find him." And Mom jumped on her float and started paddling over out in the middle of the cove to the man in the boat that was laid back with his hat kind of over his head, with his can of refreshment to the side, and she knocked on the side of his boat. Scared the man half to death. He jumped up. Hey, lady, what are you doing out here?" And she began explaining the situation about her two children and the sailboat. To which the man said, "I'm sure they're okay and be back soon. Sorry, lady. There's not much I can do to help. I'm just enjoying my day." Well, not one to be told no, my mother started rocking the man's boat and told him he wasn't going to catch any fish this day. Dee Dee shouted from the shore, "You tell him, Mamaw, we need help. Tell him." And before long, he was convinced his fishing day had gone from relaxing to pretty stressful. And he had reluctantly agreed to take Mom and Dee Dee to see if they could find us. So he had to get all of his stuff back in, pull up his anchor, get Dee Dee, got Mom in the boat, and off they go out of the cove. Where are we going to look in this big lake for a sailboat? Now notice again, my mom had not asked, but informed and told this man that he was going to help. So you see, apparently Yvonne inherited that trait honestly. Well, the storm clouds grew darker. The lake grew quieter. Yvonne and I had decided the best thing to do was take turns pulling the boat. So we got our life jackets on and jumped in the water and started swimming toward the direction of the marina. Maybe, just maybe, somebody would see us and come check on us. I would swim and pull the rope. Then Yvonne would swim, pull the rope. We were dog paddling most of the time. Yvonne, as usual, she stayed positive. She started singing some camp songs, just made the best of it while I swam and pulled on the boat, grumbling, figuring we would probably find ourselves floating backwards toward the dam, and that this was not going to end well. Positive versus negative equals, we're really not moving very far, are we? Forwards or backwards, just treading water. It was getting darker. We were getting tireder. Wondering, how long can we do this? And then, through the wind, kind of still in the distance, we heard a voice. Bobby! Yvonne! Where are you? I can't describe the peace that came over us. Mom and Dee Dee and the stranger had found us. And as so often in life, all it takes is hearing that mom's voice, and you know everything's going to be all right. We could hear the little motor and hear them talking. Over here! Over here! And they came putting and sputtering and right up to the sailboat. Yvonne got out of the water and up on the sailboat. I stayed in the water holding onto the rope, figuring I was holding it in place. The stranger said, "Hey, y'all need some help?" To which Yvonne, Mom, and Dee Dee all replied at once, "Not anymore. We got each other." I just stayed quiet in the water with a rope in my mouth. Well, took a little while, but with that little boat puttering and all of us in the sailboat talking, singing, laughing, we finally made it to the cove. The fisherman tied a rope from his little boat to our sailboat, and Mom and Dee Dee had climbed in with us, and slowly he pulled us back toward shore, and there we were. The storm had moved away, the sun had returned, and we spent the trip laughing, talking, and realizing just how foolish we had been. So as we reached that cove, the stranger just looked at us and said, "You know, I was planning on having a quiet day." He then smiled, released the rope, and shoved us toward the shore. And he turned and waved and went back to his fishing spot. And we could see right off he had a few more cans of refreshments. Nobody was going to believe the story he had to tell. We tied up the sailboat. Yvonne said she would call the man back and let him know how she appreciated the donation. But she'd ask him if he happened to know where she could get another little motor for the sailboat, because the one that was on it wasn't working very well. Just like Yvonne, leave it up to her, always ready for another adventure. You know, friends, life has a funny way of teaching us lessons. When we're young, we think we know everything. sometimes we discover we really don't. That sailboat taught me something important. Just because you've been around boats doesn't mean you know how to sail one. And just because you've faced challenges before doesn't mean the next one won't teach you something new. But I also learned something else. God has a way of providing exactly what we need when we need it. Sometimes it's a mother who won't stop searching. Sometimes it's a stranger in a fishing boat. And sometimes it's a sister who keeps singing when everybody else is worried. Well, that was my sailing adventure. First and last time sailing a sailboat. Well, I didn't really sell it. I just kind of rode in it, pulled it, and got rid of it. So today, as I sit here overlooking Betts Creek, and tied to my dock is my new fishing boat. And the name of my boat is Just One More. Every time I look at it, I smile because it reminds me of another boat, a sailboat, a storm, a prayer, and my sister Yvonne. Yes, today, June the 2nd, would have been her birthday, and I miss her. But I'm thankful for the memories, because memories have a way of keeping people close. And every now and then, they let us spend another afternoon together, even from a rocking chair. Well, friends, that's about it from this old rocking chair for now. Thank you for spending a little time with me. Until next time, keep making memories, keep trusting God, and keep a place open for somebody else. Because around here, there's always room for just one more.